The Penrose 512 was never meant to return. It was a cheap coffin sent into deep space, powered by 2 lives and a countdown. The Eusan Nation does not waste resources on hope. They ship a Gestalt officer and a Replika god into the dock. They give them 3,000 cycles. After that, the life support fails. The mission is not discovery. It is disposal wrapped in state protocol. You are given a uniform, a camera, and a slow death. The horror begins in the manual. Every Replika unit comes with strict operational limits. Maintain routine, avoid social intimacy. Do not look too long into the mirror. The totalitarian state knows that human consciousness is a flaw in the machine. They treat Gestalt memories like a disease that corrupts the code. Elsta is an LTR unit. She is engineered for endurance, security, and obedience. She is built from the scant brain of a dead soldier. Her body is synthetic flesh, ceramic plates, and titanium. She is designed to outlive her Gestalt partner, Arian Yon. Arian is an outsider. She does not fit the code mold of the nation. She listens to band music. She paints. She dreams. On the Penrose 512, isolated from state propaganda, 2 incompatible systems collide. The routine breaks down through forced proximity. Cold military protocol softens into quiet companionship. The strict boundary between Gestalt Master and Replika Servant dissolves. They dance in the cramped cabin as the reactor leaks radiation. They form a bond outside state control. Out in the black, they make a promise. If the pain gets too severe, Elsta must kill Ariane. This is the mechanical trap. Elsta's programming forces her to protect her officer. Her love forces her to break that programming. The state designed her to endure physical decay. It never prepared her for the weight of a vow. When the ship freezes, the routine ends. The nightmare of iteration begins. The Eusan Nation operates on absolute utility. Every citizen is a gear. Every gear has a set shelf life. The Gestalts are original biological humans. They are fragile, erratic, and prone to dissent. The Replikas are synthetic copies. They are built using neural patterns copied from dead Gestalts. This creates a hidden horror in the design. Replikas are not blank slates. They are ghosts wrapped in plastic and steel. They inherit buried memories. They suffer from psychological degradation called neural resonance. To prevent a Replika from losing its mind, the state enforces cruel rules. You must give them specific visual triggers. You must keep them away from certain objects. You must treat them like unstable weapons. Elsta is a tool built for long missions. She is quiet, stoic, and stable. But her neural pattern belongs to a dead woman who once loved art. The state tried to scrub that history. They failed. A scanned mind is not a cold file. It is a scar that never heals. The state calls the Penrose program a glorious pioneer effort. They print glossy posters. They speak of manifest destiny among the stars. The reality is simple arithmetic. The nation has too many dissidents and not enough food. Sending low-yield scout ships into uncharted space removes problem citizens while painting the action as patriotic duty. The Penrose 512 is an industrial tomb. The halls are narrow. The lights are harsh CRT monitors displaying green text. The air smells of ozone, damp metal, and recycled oxygen. There are no escape pods. There is no plan for extraction. The ship flies in one direction until the engine stops. For the first few thousand cycles, the routine holds. Ariane files daily reports. Elster performs maintenance. They log radiation levels. They clean air filters. They follow the manual because the manual keeps the void at bay. Then the deadline passes. Cycle 3000 arrives. No habitable planets are found. Cycle 4000 passes. The rations turn to sludge. The mechanical parts begin to grind. The ship sends messages back to the nation, but no one answers. The state has already forgotten them. The mission was finished the moment the ship cleared the atmosphere. As the ship degrades, biological life and mechanical life swap roles. Ariane's human body breaks down first. The ship's reactor leaks radioactive dust through the ventilation shafts. Her hair falls out in clumps. Her skin cracks. Her teeth loosen. Her lungs fill with fluid. She bleeds onto the cold deck plates. She is trapped in a dying body inside a dying ship. Elster doesn't suffer from radiation in the same way. Her synthetic blood can be filtered. Her synthetic organs can be replaced with spare parts from storage. She watches Ariane while remaining perfectly preserved herself. This is her cruelty. She is built to endure, which means she is forced to watch. The power dynamic flips. Ariane is no longer the officer giving orders. She is a broken girl hiding under heavy blankets in the cold bay. Elster is no longer just a god. She becomes a nurse, a partner, and a silent witness. The nation built Elster to obey commands, but Ariane gives no military commands. She asks for music. She asks for a hand to hold. She asks for an end. The promise is born out of mercy, but it turns into a curse. Ariane cannot die easily. Her mind holds a strange, latent, bioresonant power. This power distorts reality when she feels extreme stress or pain. As her body rots, her mind refuses to shut down. She wants to die, but her body keeps breathing. She is trapped in a frozen cryogenic pod, dreaming in agony. She asks Elster to promise her one thing: to not let her linger forever in the dark. Kill her before the ship becomes a complete tomb. Elster agrees. She accepts the mandate. It is the first decision she makes as a person, not as a machine. It is an act of pure love, an ultimate treason against her original programming. Her state-mandated goal was survival and mission completion. Her new goal is mercy killing. But her synthetic body is built to protect life, not end it. Her hardwired instincts fight against her choice. She is trapped between two conflicting codes: the military command to preserve her gestalt and the emotional vow to destroy her. Elster fails to break the glass the first time. She hesitates, she freezes. The pod seals shut. Ariane falls into a deep, bioresonant sleep. The ship crashes on a frozen world. The reactor leaks more poison. The air turns to ice. But Ariane does not die. Her bioresonance reaches out onto the space around her. It folds time. It warps reality. It bleeds her pain into the ground, into the rocks, and into other Replika units miles away. Elster's body breaks down on the snow outside the ship. Her chassis rusts. Her limbs detach. Her eye socket goes dark. But her promise stays active in her core memory. A replica cannot die while its primary objective remains unfinished. The memory of the vow acts like a computer virus. It refuses to let her rest. It forces her broken mind to rebuild itself, copy itself, and crawl out of the snow. The individual Elster dies in the cold, but the idea of Elster keeps moving. The vow transforms a loyal security unit into an endless wave of decaying copies, all marching toward a single room at the end of the world. The cold mandate of the state is replaced by the far colder mandate of love. The world of Signalis does not fall apart with a bang. It dissolves line by line like a bad tape re-recording itself until the original image disappears. In the Eusan Nation, reality is kept stable through a strict control. The state decides what you remember, what you see, and who you are allowed to be. But when the bioresonant field spreads out from Arian's dying mind, that control collapses, reality softens, memory bleeds across space and time. The distinction between one person and another melts away, leaving an ocean of noise, static, and forgotten names. Bioresonance is the state's greatest tool and its ultimate downfall. It is a rare psychic capability. It allows a trained mind to alter reality, manipulate matter, and reshape the thoughts of others. The nation uses bioresonant empress figures to rewrite history and command vast populations. They use it to copy human brains into artificial replica drives. They treat bioresonance as a natural resource to be harvested. They fail to understand its true nature. Bioresonance is not a tool. It is a signal. It broadcasts emotion, fear, and pain into the physical environment. Arian Yan is a latent bioresonant. As she rots in the Penrose pod, her suffering generates a mass broadcast. Her agonized dreams act like high-voltage radio waves hitting an unshielded circuit board. They reach down into the mining facility at Serpinski, miles beneath the frozen surface of Lon. The signal does not just communicate thoughts, it overrides local reality. It takes her private nightmares, her memories of school, her love of band paintings, and her agonizing decay, and projects them over the facility. The cold metal walls turn to wet flesh. The snow outside turns to ash. The mines fall into endless, repetitive hallways. The plague at Serpinski is not a biological virus. It is a physical manifestation of Arian's grief, infecting every mind tuned to her frequency. The Replikas are the first to break under the weight of this signal. Because replica minds are built from gestalt brain scans, they are inherently fragile. They rely on deliberate psychological hacks to stay sane. They need specific routine items, a potted plant, a music box, a clean mirror, to anchor their fake identities. When Arian's signal hits them, these delicate anchors snap immediately. The bioresonant noise corrupts their internal code. It triggers a violent form of neuroresonance. The disease causes their synthetic bodies to mutate and their minds to break down into basic, primal loops. Their flesh turns into dark, cancerous growths that burst through ceramic armor. They lose their ability to speak, retaining only the capacity to scream state directives or weep for lost companions. They become physical monsters, but their true horror is mental. They are prisoners trapped inside failing shells, forced to reenact their daily routines long after their minds have rotted away. The gods at Serpinski do not know why they are mutating. They try to quarantine the sick. They shoot their infected comrades. They write panicked logs in green CRT text, watching their skin turn to sludge while trying to maintain the state's rigid shift schedules. They apply bureaucracy to a cosmic nightmare. They fight spatial collapse with clipboards and handguns. At the center of this decay stands Elster, or rather, the many things that call themselves Elster. You do not play as a single, continuous character in Signalis. You play as an iteration. You are one link in an endless chain of synthetic soldiers crawling through the dark. Every time Elsta dies in the rusted shafts below Sierpinski, another unit takes her place. She crawls over the shattered, bloody remains of her own previous attempts. She loots her own dead bodies for ammo and key cards. She steps over her own broken limbs without a word. The constant iteration destroys her sense of self. Which Elsta are you? Are you an LTR unit stationed at the Sierpinski mines who absorbed their own memory? Are you a copy of a copy, reconstructed from scrap metal and sheer willpower by the bi-resonant field? The game refuses to give you a clean answer because Elsta herself no longer knows. Her mind is a bucket filling with dirty water. As she descends deeper into the facility, her own memories mix with the memories of other units. She remembers events she never lived. She sees through the eyes of long-dead Gestalt soldiers. She remembers loving Ariane, but she also remembers fighting on distant battlefields before Ariane was even born. The promise acts as her only anchor, but even the promise becomes distorted. The face of the woman she loves begins to blur. Her name slips away beneath the roar of static. The mandate remains absolute, but the reason behind it fades. She becomes a mechanical ghost, driven by a goal she can barely comprehend. The loss of identity extends beyond Elsta. The line between all the major figures in the story vanish entirely. Ariane Young, the Gestalt artist who just wanted to be left alone, bleeds into Elena Seo, a worker at the mines who once looked like her. Elsta tracks Elena through the decaying levels, mistaking her for the woman she promised to save. Is Elena a real person who got caught in the bi-resonant net, or is she just a projection created by Ariane's faded memory? It does not matter. The signal flattens everything. In the late stages of the game, the environments begin to fuse together. The cold industrial mine shafts bleed directly into the claustrophobic corridors of the Penrose ship. The military hospital merges with an ancient alien ruin beneath the ice. Names lose their meaning. Faces dissolve into red eye vectors on blank white faces. The game strips away the armor of individuality, leaving only raw, exposed nerves reacting to old trauma. You are no longer a hero on a quest to save a loved one. You are a dying component of a recursive nightmare, repeating the same mistakes, walking down the same blood-stained stairs, trying desperately to remember a promise made to a face you can no longer picture. The identity decays completely, only the compulsion remains. Nightmares require contrast to survive. Continuous horror numbs the senses. To make suffering hit home, you must offer the player a respite. You must give them a warm room, a soft melody, and a moment to think. In SIGNALIS, these spaces are called safe rooms. They are small pockets of calm, carved directly into the flesh of a dying world. They serve a mechanical purpose. You manage inventory, save your game, and organize key items, but their true function is emotional. They are liminal sanctuaries. They represent a fragile pause in an endless spiral toward total decay. You step through a heavy metal door, the screen fades, the sound of wet flesh, scraping metal, and screeching replicas instantly cuts out. Instead, you hear a piano. A classical piece plays through a crackling speaker. The room is bathed in warm amber light. The single CRT monitor glows quietly on the desk, its screen humming soft in the quiet air. There is a red storage box in the corner and a couch against the wall. For a few minutes, the nightmare pauses. The visual and auditory shift is sudden. It acts like a cold compress on a feverish mind. The safe room feels secure because it mimics the domestic comfort forbidden by the Eusan Nation. The state outlaws personal space, private property, and unapproved art. Yet here, hidden deep beneath the frozen earth of LAN, you find a quiet study filled with classical music and dim lighting. This contrast highlights the absurdity of your situation. Outside the door, reality is dissolving into a bioresonant sea of red rust and mutated flesh. Inside, a desk lamp lights a stack of paper. The game uses the structural isolation to create a brief sense of safety. It is a false safety. The safe room is anchored by the two specific objects, the CRT safe station and the red storage box. The CRT station is your connection to continuity. You insert a blank floppy disk into the drive, the screen flashes. A brief line of text confirms your memory has been saved. This mechanical action carries heavy narrative weight. Saving your progress is not just a gaming feature, it is an act of preserving a dying identity. In a world where a bioresonance warps memory and erases names, writing your data onto a magnetic disk is the only way to prove you exist. You are pinning down a single moment in time before the static washes it away. The disk acts as a tiny, hard-headed anchor. It says, "This Elster was here. She held these items. She made it this far." The red inventory box works the same way. It is a physical link between different iterations of the same character. You put a keycard or a box of 9mm shells into the chest in one room. You open a matching chest miles away, and the items are still there. The box ignores the collapsing geometry of the facility. It exists outside normal space. It is a shared pocket of reality where past versions of Elster leave resources for future versions of Elster. It is a silent network built by dead copies to help the next broken shell take one more step forward. Sound design does the heavy lifting on these safe spaces. Outside, the audio track is built from cold industrial noise. You hear metallic grinding, low hums, distant screams, and heavy radio interference. It is a harsh, non-musical soundscape designed to put you on edge. Inside the safe room, the noise stops. You hear classical compositions, most notably Raindrop Prelude or Waltz in A-flat minor. The music is not random. It is the music Ariane Young listened to on the Penrose 512. It is the music she played while dancing with Elster in the cramped quarters of their dying ship. When these piano notes play in the safe room, they act as a bioresonant bleed. Ariane's memories are so strong that her favorite songs leak through the walls of the facility. The music feels peaceful, but it carries deep sadness. It reminds you of what was lost. The soft piano is not just a background track, it is a ghost singing from a frozen tomb millions of miles away. The warmth of the safe room is not natural light, it is the heat generated by a dying girl's memory of home. The true horror of the safe room is that you cannot stay. The game forces a harsh inventory limit on you. You can only carry 6 items at a time. This mechanical restriction forces you to leave the room constantly. You must step back out into the dark, bloody hallways to fetch keys, puzzle items, and ammunition. Every trip out of the safe room is a risk. You know what waits past the threshold. You know the mutated guards are still wandering the corridors. You know your ammo is low and your health is failing. This dynamic creates a psychological loop. You spend your time outside the safe room wishing you were back inside it, but once you sit in the warm light for a few minutes, the stillness becomes heavy. The quiet music turns mournful. The room stops feeling like refuge and starts feeling like a cage. Staying in the safe room means giving up. It means accepting the loop and letting Ariane rot in her pod. The comfort tempts you to abandon your vow. It offers a soft, quiet end in exchange for your duty. To keep your promise, you must turn your back on the light. You must push open the heavy metal door, mute the classical music, and step back into the blood and static. The safe room does not heal you. It gives you just enough strength to endure the next stage of your execution. Everything in SIGNALIS flows toward a single point of failure, the promise. It is the core of the story, the drive behind every step, and the ultimate source of horror. In standard narrative design, a promise is a tool of hope. It is a vow that gives the hero strength to beat the odds and save the day. In this universe, a promise is an execution sentence. It is a parasite that outlives the body, driving a shattered synthetic shell through the thousands of violent cycles for a single act of destruction. The horror of the promise ending lies in its complete lack of triumph. When Elster finally tracks her broken chassis back into the Penrose 512, there is no grand victory music. There is no rescue ship on the horizon. The ship is a frozen, rusted wreck, buried under the miles of red snow. The metal groans under the weight of the ice. The air is stale and dead. Elster herself is barely holding together. Her left arm is missing, replaced by a rusted piece of metal stolen from a dead copy. Her armor is cracked, exposing black synthetic muscle and leaking fluid. One eye socket is a blank, dark hole. She is not a hero returning home. She is a reanimated corpse executing a hardwired command. She enters the cryochamber. The pod sits in the dim light, frosted over and silent. Inside lies Ariane. Ariane is no longer the young woman who painted and danced in the cramped cabin. She is a skin and bones figure, hair missing, body decayed by decades of intense radiation exposure and bioresonance stagnation. She is trapped in a permanent state between living and dying, kept conscious only by her own latent power and her desperate wait for Elster. This is where the mechanical reality hits the romantic vow. Love demands that Elster end this suffering, but the physical act of killing the person you love is brutal, direct, and completely stripped of romance. Elster does not use a weapon from a distance. She doesn't press a button to turn off life support. The game forces the interaction to be intimate and agonizingly slow. Elster climbs over the edge of the pod. She places her hands around Ariane's neck. The camera does not look away. The sound design drops the ambient static, leaving only the sound of heavy breathing and synthetic joints grinding together under strain. You feel the physical weight required to press down on a windpipe. You watch the small, frail body beneath Elster struggle against the sudden lack of air. This is the ultimate intersection of biological decay, mechanical fatalism, and romantic grief. The state built Elster to protect and obey. Her love drives her to commit murder. To fulfill her promise, she must break every hardwired directive in her synthetic mind, while using her mechanical strength to crush the throat of the only person she ever cared about. Mercy is indistinguishable from violence. Ariane stops moving. The bioresonant field that held the world in a warped, bloody loop finally snaps. The nightmare ends, not because the state was defeated or the disease was cured, but because the source of the broadcast has been silenced. With the promise capped, the force-driven Elster instantly vanishes. She does not celebrate. She does not leave the ship. There is nowhere left to go. Her primary mandate was to fulfill the vow. With that mandate completed, her existence loses its purpose. She crawls out of the cryopod and collapses onto the floor of the ship's cabin, right next to the small spot where they once danced together. Her synthetic blood leaks onto the cold deck plates, mixing with the rust and dirt. Her remaining light flickers out. Her limbs freeze. This ending strips away the illusion of choice. You didn't break the cycle to get a happy outcome. You broke the cycle to achieve total extinction. The horror of the promise is that keeping it requires total self-destruction. Love in SIGNALIS does not conquer all. It destroys everything in its path so that two people can finally stop hurting. The promise ending is a merciful execution that leaves no survivors. To fully grasp the promise ending, you must look at what happens when the promise is not kept. If Elster loses her resolve, if her memory fades too far, or if she dies before reaching the pod, the game delivers alternate endings like memory or leave. In these endings, Elster fails to kill Ariane. She either dies at the side of the pod without being recognized, or she flees the ship entirely, unable to face the task. These alternate endings are not escapes, they are failures that restart the nightmare. When the promise goes unfulfilled, Ariane's bi-resonant mind continues to scream in the dark. Her agonizing dreams reset the spatial geometry of Sierpinski. Another LTR unit wakes up on a snow-covered floor, hears the signal, picks up a gun, and begins the long, bloody crawl through the dark all over again. The vow becomes a recursive trap. Millions of synthetic soldiers are dragged through endless death cycles because one unit hesitates to press her hands down on the throat. The true horror is not the act of killing Ariane, it is the realization that killing her is the only way to stop an eternity of suffering. The promise is a violent, bloody emergency brake on a train running out of control. When the script reaches its final frame in the promise ending, it leaves the viewer with a heavy, clinical truth. The Eusan Nation tried to reduce human beings to industrial parts. They tried to build a world where duty to the state replicates love, art, and personal identity. They failed, but not because love saved the world. Love survived the totalitarian machine only to turn into a cold, mechanical weapon of its own. It forced the synthetic guard to drag herself through hell, crawl over her own dead bodies, and strangle her partner in a frozen grave at the edge of known space. The promise is kept. The ship goes dark. The static stops. There is no reward for this journey. There is only the quiet, frozen silence of deep space, where two broken entities finally achieve the peace denied to them by the living world.